Something weird is happening to design. Design is becoming physical again. Apps are getting glossy again, logos are getting animated and dimensional, cars look like sci-fi control rooms for some reason, and even potato chips have taken a swing at this. And all this after more than a decade of ultra-flat minimalism. Now you might be wondering, didn't we already do this? And actually we did. In the early smartphone era, smartphone interfaces or digital interfaces tried really hard to look real. Apps had leather cover icon, bookshelves look wooden, buttons look pressable, and sometimes even lickable, as Steve Jobs put it. This design philosophy had a name, Skeuomorphism. And the idea was pretty simple. Make digital things feel familiar by making them look like a physical object, or mimicking physical objects. Honestly, it worked and it was kind of necessary. Smartphones were new, people needed visual clues to understand how they're going to be interfacing with their devices through this new form of interaction that was touchscreens. So it was kind of important to make it as intuitive as possible. But then the industry completely flipped. Around the 2010s, tech companies abandoned skeuomorphism for flat design. And it was cleaner, faster, simpler, and obviously much more scalable. This shift was deeply influenced by modernist design movements like Bauhaus and Swiss minimalism from the early and mid-20th century. Philosophies built around functionality, clarity, and removing unnecessary decoration. Form follows function. And for a while, it did feel futuristic. Suddenly, everything had white space, clean typography, geometric icons, and perfect grids. But eventually, every app started to look the same. So, in search of usability and clarity, we ended up losing, well, personality. We often say design is not a straight line. It's more like a pendulum or a cycle. Now we're seeing the return of depth, but in a completely new form. Apple's new liquid glass interface uses translucency, reflections, blur, and LED lighting to make UI feel almost physical. Google's Material U introduced interfaces that stretch, bounce, and react organically. Microsoft redesigned its icons with gradients and dimensional softness. And Xbox branding brought back its iconic logo. And this isn't all skeuomorphism. Nobody's making fake leather calendars anymore. Instead, designers are borrowing qualities from real materials like glass and embracing features like light, shadow, motion, and depth. And this trend is not just staying on screens either. Product design is changing too. Ferrari's upcoming EV concepts, influenced by Johnny Ive's philosophy, combine floating OLED layers, ambient lighting, and tactile controls to create immersive cockpits. Brands are evolving in the same direction. Reddit turned Snoo into a fully 3D mascot. Apple made their Finder a mascot. Pepsi introduced motion-heavy branding. Lay's redesigned its packaging with matte textures and richer photography. Even hardware companies like Nothing are exposing internal components and making technology itself, or like this industrial design, part of the visual experience. So why is this happening now? Part of this is technological. GPUs, animation engines, AR devices, and spatial computing finally make these interfaces practical in real time. And part of it is emotional. And after almost a decade of sterile minimalism, people are craving for more depth, warmth, texture, personality again. And obviously, nostalgia. Especially us, the Gen Z, who was grown up in a time where it was mostly polished, flat surfaces, we now crave playful, tactile, and retro-futuristic visuals. And brands need a differentiation as well. When every app becomes colorful rectangles on a white background, depth becomes a competitive advantage. Now, whatever it is, it would be cool to understand and live through how all these changes are going to be accommodating, and how other brands will be embracing it, and how design as a whole will be evolving to support this new form of regained physical depth, as I'd like to call it. So yeah, that's it. Bye.